Over the last 4 episodes, we did a sub-series called When We Do as the Gentiles Do, where we took a look at what do Christian iterations of government really look like. And we can talk about how Christianity wielding government would be a great thing, but we have real examples of this kind of thing. And what does it look like? For the first iteration of government, we took a look at the post-Constantinian church. And we looked at how once the church gained power, they started to use that power to persecute others, even fellow Christians. Salvian, in his book on the government of God, talked about the debauchery and the terrible life that the Roman Christians had, in part because they had power. The second iteration of Christian government that we talked about was the Crusades. And during the time of the Crusades, Christianity had quite a lot of power in Europe, and what did that look like? Well, they went and they slaughtered Muslims. But on top of that, they not only killed, pagans or people who didn't believe like they did, but they also went into places like Constantinople and ransacked and raped and pillaged fellow Christians. We also find some pretty anti-Semitic stuff going on at that time. We find a children's crusade where they send a bunch of children off to get basically enslaved. And during this time, this is when the Catholic Church starts to become the more corrupt church that it is up until the Reformation, when the Reformation says, hey, this is so bad, we've got to change it. Then we took a look at the magisterial reform, right? The Great Reformation that led to Protestantism. And while there were a lot of good aspects of it theologically, in practice, there were some really heinous things. In particular, the persecution and execution of fellow Christians. It's also during this time that you get people using the church for power, like King Henry VIII and his justifications for divorces and discarding some of the wives in his lives. And you also get a lot of wars and violence as well in Europe. Not to mention the exploitation of enslaved peoples and indigenous peoples all across the globe. And finally, we took a look at the good old Christian United States of America and talked about how a lot of the wealthy land speculators who weren't getting their way decided to lead a revolution because of a 2% tax and just various aspects of the Christian nation that aren't so Christian. So what does it look like when Christians try to wield power like the Gentiles do? Well, then their actions look like Gentile actions and not Christian actions. Looks like atrocity, enslavement, grasping at power. It looks gross. Check out the full episode for more.